Speaking of 100-win paces, the Guardians and the Royals right now, from our favorite division, the AL Central, are both on a 100-win pace. Pretty unbelievable in the history of these franchises. The Royals have done it once, 1977. The Guardians 3 times, the last time being 2017. But to see these two teams where at the beginning of the season we thought, all right, this is the division that's wide open and 90 wins might just win it. Now you're looking at two teams that I think are starting to not only just pull away from the pack in the Central, two teams that are looking like top tier in the American League in general. These teams have been legit this season.
It's been incredible watching them and very fun as well, of course, as we've been talking about all season long, in a division that, we expected to be competitive other than the White Sox. And for the most part, it is. I mean, Tigers are the 4th place team, and they're only 1 game under 500. So everyone in this division is doing well. It's not as if the Guardians and Royals are just beating up on the same teams 19 times in a season. So they're going out there, and whoever you line up in front of them, they're playing really well. They're pitching really well, which is the key part. You got to be doing everything really well. And I think with a younger group of guys for the Guardians, and maybe less so for the Royals, right? Because they've got some of those older vets with Salvador Perez and in the rotation with Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo. But it's been refreshing, really, to have other teams to talk about. Like I could talk about the Dodgers, Yankees all day long. It's baseball, right? Like you shouldn't be impacted by hearing or seeing the same teams over and over again. I think if you're a true fan in many ways, not to be disparaging in any way, but it's baseball. So like, give me the best and I'll talk about the best and I'll watch the best gladly. But when you have organically two teams like the Guardians and Royals doing it this way, playing amazing baseball, two of the best teams in the American League, it's icing on the cake. And it's like you want that to happen, and it virtually never does. So we definitely need to cherish that at this point in the season and think, you know what, maybe it can actually last a little bit longer than the first 2 months.
Once you reach Memorial Day, which we are recording on Memorial Day, that's when you start to say, all right, like we got to take the sample that's in front of us and really value it, because it's now you're past the quarter mark of the season. You're really into it. And these teams aren't going anywhere. If anything, they're just continuing to double down, triple down, show us that they really are legit. And you look at a team like the Royals or even, the Guardians here, they are doing it with great pitching, solid defense, and then this combination of there's some veterans, but a lot of youth and a lot of guys that are sort of performing more than you would expect. You look at Michael Garcia for the Royals right now, 33 runs driven in, playing great defense. He swiped 13 bases, like really solid numbers. He was good last year too, but just really good production. You see David Fry with the Guardians, who I can look at some of the expected data and some of the stuff under the surface that I tell you he's got a little bit lucky this year, but production's production, and he's coming through with big hits and a lot of big moments. So when you're seeing these underrated guys who don't really have names yet in the league establish themselves and be part of a team that is winning, that's about as fun of baseball as you can watch. And I talked about it on our last show. Like when I saw the Guardians firsthand for a series, I'm like, that team is just good. Like they're just, they get, when they get their opportunities, they capitalize on them. And you see teams that know how to win those games that are close, and the teams that find the ways to lose. And these are teams that are more often than not finding that way to win.
It really is an intangible quality to have that little bit of extra, right? It's like you go back and look at the Phillies, where, excuse me, not the Phillies, the Padres, I think in 2022, right, where they lost all of these like 1-run games and they just couldn't win them, and that was the difference. So there definitely is something to that, and they're getting that production too out of players that you can rely on, franchise cornerstones.
Yeah.
Like, as you said, with Michael Garcia, with 35 or so RBI, tied for 11th most in the American League. Like, a lot of people probably haven't heard of that name, but you need to know he's at third base there for KC. And then Jose Ramirez, who everybody does know, 53 RBI, and we're not even through the month of May. He leads the majors. So he's just been amazing. Guardians on an 8-game winning streak, although they are playing at Coors Field. So shoot, are they going to get swept? No, probably not. But still, they could lose that series because anytime you play a team at Coors Field, you got to be careful. But Guardians and Royals, breath of fresh air, and it's been fun to see so many of these players kind of step up and just passing the torch. That's all it really is, passing the baton to the next guy, where you don't need to be a superstar and hit those 5-run home runs with the bases empty, right? It's just, hey, look, do your job, and then the next guy after you is going to do it. That's why, when you watch the highlights, it's somebody new almost each and every day, not just their Jose Ramirez and Bobby Witt Juniors.
Yeah, you have right now on the Guardians 4 guys who have got an F4 of pretty much 1.5 or more. Andres Jimenez at 1.4, David Fry at 1.5, J Ram at 1.7, and Stephen Kwan at 1.9 in 32 games because he's hitting 350 with 407 on base. It's a joy. And you see the MVP candidates coming through for both these teams, and Jose Ramirez and Bobby Witt Jr. That's obviously a big driver on any 100-win team, which leads me to asking you the question, what do you think here? One of them gets to 100, both of them get to 100, and if you had to pick one of the two to get there, which of these teams do you think can actually pull it off? Because, again, I talked about the history. As great as they are right now, there's every chance that we're looking at 2 95-win teams, right, that don't actually get there. To get to that 100-win threshold is really special. So who do you think does it?
This is definitely tough, and I don't think it's just the standings showing me that the Guardians have 2.5 more wins, but Cleveland is one of those teams like Tampa, those small market clubs where they always find a way to get it done. I think a lot of times when you get a new manager in there, either just to change up the culture, whatever it could be, that injects this life into an organization. I think Stephen Vogt has done that in Cleveland. So I'm tending to think that the Guardians are going to be the ones that are legit and will be able to stick around and for the first time since, as you said, 2017, win 100 games. I'm tending to think the Guardians are the ones that are going to pull that off. And look, if these two teams were in different divisions, I'd like my money on both of them. But AL Central is a little bit more difficult, and they got to play each other still several more times. So I'm leaning towards the Guardians over the Royals right now. How about you? Are you also going Guardians, or do you actually think the Royals can kind of make up that 2.5 game difference and get to the 100 mark first?
As much as it would be better content for me to say, oh, the Royals, we go back and forth and argue, I'm right there with you, because to me, the big differentiating factor that I believe will lead to the Guardians getting to 100 or being the better team in this division when the season ends, it comes down to the bullpen. We've talked about it before, but I still don't have complete faith in that Royals bullpen to be able to hold on to all the close games. The Guardians probably have the best bullpen in baseball, and Emmanuel Clase is back to being arguably the best closer in baseball. And I watched him pitch on 3 consecutive games and get 3 saves. And you just don't see that. Guys that are going not just back to backs, but back to back to back and getting the job done and looking fresh in his 3rd appearance in that many days. So when you have a closer that good and you have a team that's constantly pushing across that run late to give yourself that 1-run lead, and that's all you need, when you can shorten the game to 8 innings. And with the Guardians, with the bullpen they have, sometimes they can shorten it to 7 or 6 innings, where they just you got to get to the final 9 outs for Cleveland, and you're going to be able to get the job done most times. I think that is really that secret sauce that separates the 90, the 95 win teams to the 100 win teams. The teams that can lock down all of those leads, those are the ones that get the job done.
As you said, with Clase right now, looking at Fangraphs wins above replacement, only Mason Miller is higher than Clase right now. So he's the second best reliever in all baseball, according to that statistic, or rather the American League. But then you go down the list, 5th in F4 in the American League, Hunter Gaddis, their setup man. Their 7th inning guy, Kate Smith, is 6th in all of the American League. So
Crazy.
half of the top 6 relievers right now, according to F4, pitch for the Cleveland Guardians. And then you go down the list, number 19, Tim Herron is also there. So 4 guys in the top 20, that are pretty elite right now. You're right. Like that's a huge component. And if you can go out and know that, look, you're going to be safe in the latter part of the inning, that allows your pitching to hold the score and allows your offense that many more bites at the apple to come from behind if you're not already in the lead.
I wonder just if I don't know if it's a renaissance of the closer, but there's something to be said about the value of a good closer. And comparing these two teams, head to head, James MacArthur is sort of the de facto guy there. He's sit with a 3.8 ERA and a WHIP of 1.3. Clase's got a 0.33 ERA. It's not even close, and it just shows the difference. But I'm also even looking at, sort of as we stretch beyond these two teams. Ryan Helsley has 17 saves, and how many wins do the Cardinals even have this year? Like that alone is mind-boggling because he's probably saved what 2/3 of their victories. I have to look. Are they at like 25 wins right now? Something like that. Yeah, they're 25 and 26, and he's got 17 saves. So the closer role. I mean, you see even the reason the A's have been able to have a much better season up to this point than we would have expected is because of Mason Miller. So there is something to be said about having that guy in the ninth inning that is going to get the job done.
It's true. Yeah, it just shortens a game. That's what everyone used to say when you played the Yankees is, look, you're getting 24 outs. And there's a lot of times where he would go 2 innings. So that's 21 outs that you got to get, and the game's over at that point. So those players have that value. And, the metrics that we use with wins above replacement don't put the same value on it as teams do, because we see how much money closers and top relievers get, despite the fact that they're throwing a fraction of the innings as even a decent starting pitcher. Yet, again, if you have guaranteed outs there, that's how you get the job done, right? I think I don't know if they showed this in the film Moneyball, but in the book by Michael Lewis, they're basically saying, hey, we need to score this many runs in order to have X amount of wins, right? They just broke it down that way. And so they're grabbing guys with on base percentage, that are undervalued and things of that nature. And if, again, 27 outs is used to be the only clock, if you will, used to be the only thing you would time in baseball, if you will, or measure a game by. If you can shorten that to 24, 21, or in the case of the Cleveland Guardians, 18 outs on a night in, night out basis, yeah, you are going to have one of the best records in all of baseball.
It really does just make things so much easier on a team. And I on the Foul Territory podcast, I heard them talking about like what's more valuable, the ace or the lockdown closer. And you have former players on the show, and they were just talking about that mental advantage it gives you as a team, just knowing that, hey, you get a lead, it's huge. And on the other side of it, if you're playing down and you know that Clase is waiting in the ninth, you feel like you press a little bit as a hitter in those late innings in the 6th, 7th, and 8th, which maybe helps those other guys below Class A be so dominant because they're going against a team that's maybe gripping the bat a little bit tighter. So it really is an interesting discussion about the value of a closer. And that's why when we eventually get to the trade deadline, when you look at a guy like Mason Miller that might be out there, or a guy like Ryan Helsley that might be out there, that's where those relief pitchers get so much more, not only in contracts, but also when they're traded, because there's just an inherent extra value you got to put on the guys that have been battle tested in that ninth inning, getting the final 3 outs.
I certainly had never thought of it in that capacity with, hey, this guy is pitching the 9th inning, so here's our opportunity. It's almost the same thing when you have someone like Shohei Ohtani or Freddie Freeman, whatever, protecting you in the lineup. You're going to see better pitches because they're worried about the guy behind you, right? So they need to get you out in some shape or form. So they don't want to walk you. So they're going to give you some more opportunities, for better or worse. And so I'd never thought of it in that way of like, hey, the guy in the 9th is almost protecting the guy in the 8th because he's so dominant. So that very well could be the case, for these guys that, Emmanuel Clase is the dude right now. He's definitely on that Hall of Fame path. But, we also said that about Francisco Rodriguez way back when, and he's still waiting for the call. So we'll see.
Yeah, you got to really put it together when it comes to a career to get to the Hall of Fame as a closer. But those guys are truly special. Can we just open up a little side wing? If we're not going to put them in, like, let's just, put a shed out to the side. The best relievers, just put it somewhere. Give us an exhibit.
No, it's the back door, right?
Back door.
You close the door on your way out.
There you go.
The names of all the little players.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Maybe just like put their names like in the path, engrave it in the cobblestone, and just
on the way to the exit with
exactly.
The you're like, oh, Armando Benitez, look at that. Oh, John Franco finally is being acknowledged.
You just threw some former Mets at me to put a smile on my face, didn't you? Armando Benitez.
It.
Good stuff. Braden Looper, how about that? All right,
Loop the poop. Okay.